Why are we out of focus, Kimiko-chan? Oh, are we in focus now? Hello. Hi, I'm LadyJenevia. Welcome to a new spoiler-free review of Dickinson Season 3. This week we are going to be talking very briefly about Episode 5. If at any point you find yourself enjoying, please remember to like and comment, because engagement is essential in helping online creators. Before we get into things, I wanted to first raise a question to the audience. Do you still want me to preview songs that will be appearing in the upcoming episodes? I'm asking because it seems a little bit redundant at this point, because apparently the show has already released a full list of songs that will be used on the final season of the series. Did they do that last season, by the way, especially at this point in the airing schedule? I know I am but a modest 10k subscriber channel, but if they did not do it last season, and they're now doing it this season, why the sudden change? I previewed songs each week during my Season 2 reviews. I don't know how many other reviewers were doing the same, if anyone else was doing the same anyway, but that's neither here nor there. I'm just saying, if you were trying to get ahead of what I'm doing, you could have at least let me talk to the show's talent during the final season junket. Also, if you will permit me to do a tiny little bit of self-promotion, I recently did an interview with two of the editors of Netflix's ARCANE series named Lawrence Gann and Ernesto Matamoros Cox. I would love for more people to check that interview out and show it some love. They had some really interesting things to say about the adaptation process from video game to television series, about the animation industry, about show business in general, diversity in storytelling. There's a lot of really good stuff, especially if you want to learn more about the industry, because perhaps you have your own aspirations of getting in there, whether as a writer, an editor. Every little bit you can do to learn about the machine, I think, is helpful. Knowledge is power. Anyway, on to the review. I enjoy episode 5, though probably not for the same reasons the stans will love it. Feel free to speculate on what it is that I mean by that. One of the things that I've noticed about Dickinson before, but I don't know how much I've actually taken the time to praise it as a broader storytelling concept, as opposed to just praising specific examples of it, is that the show is really good at doing this thing where you will have these offhand comments and one-liners, sometimes by main characters, other times by supporting characters, or even special guests or day players. And these offhand comments will serve as a sharp jab or a reference to something nefarious about the time period or about history, or maybe some broader cultural reference. If we take Season 2, for example, I remember there being some sort of exchange between Lavinia and an Indigenous day player. I don't remember what exactly was said during that exchange, but it was making some sort of reference to the historical and still ongoing genocide of Indigenous folks in the States. That is the type of writing that's always been interwoven into the show's anachronistic style of storytelling. However, I felt like I just noticed it in a different way when watching episode 5, Sang from the Heart Sire, things that were coming in close succession, one reference after another. And I like that they include these things so that they can acknowledge certain details of topics that they just don't have the time to delve more deeply into, or that they cannot depict because it would inevitably flip the show's entire tone on its head. Or also, sometimes it refers to historical Easter eggs that fans will hopefully look up and study more in depth. One of the things I've come to realize is that the more capitalistic a country is, the less history they teach, and the history that they do bother to teach is biased at best, and at worst, straight up imperialist propaganda, and I hate it. The people should not have to rely on art to put history onto your radar, but here we are. Conservative politicians want to remove critical race theory from being taught in schools. Liberal politicians like Joe Biden will lie on their campaign trails saying that they're going to cancel student loan debt, but then they don't follow through on it because they care more about their corporate donors. Not that I'm surprised in any way, he's a Dixiecrat. He also signed a performative action of declaring an official day for Indigenous people, and then a couple of days after doing that, he let cops arrest Indigenous activists that were protesting outside of the White House against the environmental pollution of corporate capitalists like himself. All the more reason why, when Dickinson plants little historical Easter eggs, I implore you, if you can, to try to look up more information about these things that are being referenced on the show. That is, you can look those things up in between you making all of your Emmy Sue edits. I think there's room to do both. Obviously, we are well aware now that the show is taking place during the Civil War. And if you've been watching my weekly reviews, you know I am extremely opinionated about how the show handles that subject matter. Too many people in the global north are far too propagandized into supporting war. I don't like that. The US in particular is far too lacking in an anti-war movement, the likes of which I don't know if we've truly seen in action since Vietnam. You probably know that I've been very mixed in how Dickinson has handled the topic of war on the show thus far, and I can report that I shall continue to be mixed about it in this episode. I'm not going to elaborate on that, obviously, but we can talk more about it next week when I will be free to say what I liked and perhaps what I'm more skeptical of. I really struggled to know how to preview this episode without spoiling things. I can say, though, that there was something that I hinted at all the way back when I was doing my season 3 review, the first one that I posted about this season when that first embargo lifted. One of the things that I was hinting at in that video is going to happen in this episode. You may have noticed that episodes 3 and 4 did not have any specific spoilers given in the do not reveal list, but I can say that there is something that takes place in episode 5 that people are forbidden from sharing in advance. There are do not reveal spoilers for all of the remaining episodes of the season, so let's see if any of these other professionals will actually stay silent about those things. None of you were supposed to know that Sue was pregnant before the show aired, the season 3 premiere. And we all saw how that turned out. I don't know who revealed that, but do you think they had to suffer any consequences for that? If I had to guess, I would say probably not. Episode 4 was more of an Emily-centric episode. She didn't get to interact with Sue because she was off in her own world, exploring her mind and exploring herself. I hope all of you enjoyed episode 4, by the way. I don't know what the reaction to that episode is because I'm making this review before it has aired. But if you are someone who does not appreciate Emily-centric content and you need for all of Emily's scenes to also have Sue in them, don't worry, episode 5 has you covered. They will have scenes together in this episode. If you didn't already know that, I don't know what's being shared in promo. Before any of you try to do that thing where you write to me asking, are they going to be happy in these scenes or sad in these scenes? I cannot tell you that. Last week, on my spoiler-free review of episode 4, someone wrote in the comments asking me if Emily would be going to a gay bar. Do you see the title of that video? Or the title of this video? It says spoiler-free. All I will say is you will feel many emotions about Emily and Sue's on-screen time together. We will have a lot to talk about next week. Austin's been doing a whole lot this season. I'm assuming many of you have some strong opinions about what's been going on with him, and I really enjoyed reading the comments of people who were sharing their thoughts about why Austin is the way he is right now on my spoiler review of the season 3 premiere. It gave me a more fleshed out impression of his run across the entire series, since some of the things that happened with his story and character arc across earlier seasons were not as fresh in my mind. Rest assured, I will have a lot of things to say about Austin next week. Really sorry if you're only here to watch me give Emmy Sue opinions, but Austin's material has a lot of layers to get into next week, and I want to talk about them. But obviously not right now, because right now is when I have to talk in circles about whatever it is that is going to be taking place in episode 5. There is one more thing I'm going to briefly mention about this episode before I close things off. I'm really sorry if you wanted to be less cryptic, but there's just a lot happening in this episode, and trust me when I say, as much as some of you might think that you want me to spoil things, trust me when I say, no you don't. If you follow me on Twitter, you might have seen me tweet that I was rewatching episode 305 to write my reviews of this episode, and I posted that tweet with a gif of Baby Yoda, aka the child, aka Grogu, sipping on his soup, and that was because it was a visual representation of the essence of how I felt watching certain parts of this episode. Mostly one part of it, if I'm being honest. But anyway, if and only if you watched my spoiler-free review of season 3, that first review I posted back when the first embargo lifted, then you might remember what I am about to say. Marie Kondo. I will not elaborate. You either watched my review, and you know what I'm saying, in a cryptic way, or you don't. Marie Kondo. That's all I'm going to lightly tease at for today's review. We are going to have so much to talk about next week. Don't forget to like and comment. It really does help me out. And I will see you in the next one. Bye. What is this face? What is this face you're doing?